For all you flippers and wholesalers who want to gross $1 million a year just from using Google Ads, I'm going to peel back the hood and show you exactly what $1 million campaign looks like, because we run campaigns for dozens and dozens and dozens of investors, and we run active campaigns that are going on right now that are generating over $1 million actually in revenue every single year for them. And I'm going to show you exactly what they look like. This is going to be the best video on PPC for real estate investors that you've ever seen. Let's get into it. How to gross $1 million from PPC alone. So, who am I? I've been wholesaling for 10 years. That's my website, WeBuyHomes.de. I started running PPC for other investors since 2019. I've been doing it ever since. Obviously, this is my YouTube channel here. So, what is Google Ads PPC? Google Ads is a system by, if you go to Google, you type in something like cash for my home. This is what motivated sellers will do. And they'll see the little ads here. They'll click on them. They'll go to your website. They'll fill out a form. And then you manage all this stuff in the back end of Google. You put in the keywords you want and the bidding and all this kind of complicated, nerdy stuff. And on the other end of the machine, it prints out tons of money for you. So I'm going to show you exactly how to print out $1 million for you. So we spent over $6 million in Google Ads, generated over 30,000 leads, worked with over 200 investors, and our average profit per deal is $30,000. Just some testimonials. Oh, we got a huge deal. This isn't just made up stuff. Estimated $30,000 profit. Different markets all over the country. So in Q1 in 2025, we spent over $1 million across all of our campaigns. Average cost per lead was about $180. And we've run, 54 campaigns across the US and Canada. Budgets range anywhere from low budgets, $1,500 a month, all the way up to $20,000 a month. So the reason why investors even call us in the first place is because they're doing some offline marketing, or they have an agency they're working with and they're not so happy. So they kind of feel out of control. Things are going up and down. They don't really know what to do, and it's stressing them out. Like this guy, the pipes are leaking too. It's like all this stuff. So the regulations, this and that. Anyway, they're getting burnt out for one reason or another. So they want to give us a call and be able to add PPC into their channel because they've heard PPC. It's like passive. The leads are really high quality. I don't need a huge team to manage it. But I've also heard investors lose a ton of money. So like, what's going on? Well, we're going to show you exactly how to do it right, make $1 million. Right? It's the vision. So that they're happy. They want to be able to trust that it works. They want to be able to understand the numbers, and they want to be able to work the high quality leads, and they don't want to rely on outbound anymore. So it's not always easy to do that though. Here are the 5 biggest issues with pay-per-click marketing that you'll need to solve if you want to make $1 million from it. Having a really bad website, a bad intake process, dispo process in the market, and not being patient enough. So let's go through an example here with a good website. Keys to a good website: you want to make sure you have a simple image. It's easily readable. Maybe you have the background being something in your local market, like a landmark or something. Simple form, very important. And then you want to have credibility. So the 3 keys to having a really good website: it needs to load quickly, you need to have a simple form at the top, and you need to have credibility that shows you're a local, trustworthy home buyer. So this is a good example. They got a nice, clean, professional video here of them actually doing a deal. Pictures here, a local market, and they got some reviews in here. So this is a good example of a website that you want to aspire to have. Let's get back to this here. Okay, number 2, you need a great sales system. So what does that look like? You need to respond to the leads in 5 minutes or less. I know that's crazy, but these leads are not just filling out your form, they're filling out your competitor's form, and you need to be on top of them. That's very key. You have a team that does that, and you have your notifications set up properly. You will get phone calls as well. About 30% of the leads that come in are phone calls from the number on your website. Make sure you can handle them and answer them live. And if you can't answer them live, get a call center to answer them live and then call them back right away, or text them right away, right? Have some automated text go out. I've seen investors use VA companies to handle the leads. You can do that, and we have seen some investors who've had success doing that, but we really don't recommend it. It's the exception, not the rule. These are super high quality leads of people who are ready to sell their home right now. You want your best salespeople in the company handling them. Oftentimes the leads are closed on the phone on the very first call. And ideally you want to be able to refer leads to other local agents to increase your average profit you make per the leads that come in. You want to have a really good follow-up system. There's no one size fits all solution, but this is kind of an average that we've seen across the board from investors doing really well. Right when new leads come in, you want to call them 3 times. Right when the form comes in, 3 times, because there's the spam blockers now on phones, so call them 3 times. Manually text them, leave voicemails for the first 2 days in a row, send a text after every voicemail, and then after that, you want to text them every single week for the next month or 2. If it's for warm leads afterwards, once the new lead is warm, maybe, they're waiting to hear from their sibling to sign a document or whatever. You want to make sure you call them every 30 days and manually text them, leave voicemails, etc. Right? Kind of simple stuff. For leads that are cold, you want to have a virtual assistant in place to call the leads every 1 to 3 months. Again, in this case, the goal of the VA is just to get someone to raise their hand and say they're interested. Then you pass them off to one of your top salespeople to then acquire the property and dispo it, right? Then you want to have some automated email and text sequences in place, right, in week 1, and then 2 weeks out, and then 3 weeks out after that. So you kind of taper it away. And then you kind of do it just once a month indefinitely after that until they tell you to stop contacting them or you do a deal with them. Disposition system, very important, right? The investors who can dispo the best and make the most amount of money per deal are the ones that are happiest with their PPC campaign, right? Because PPC, as you know, isn't the cheapest marketing channel. So you want to make sure you're able to not only cover your costs, but to get a really good ROI. So investors that maybe even have a smaller budget, they can flip the properties, make 70 grand on a flip, and their ROI is a lot higher from someone who's doing these kind of smaller wholesale deals. Again, like I said, we want to list properties, and our investors want to keep the properties as buy and hold. Companies who are doing statewide or nationwide even, they really just focus on wholesaling because it's harder to flip deals doing multiple markets, right? And they often have a really huge buyers list. So our most successful investors who are in small markets specifically, right? They don't just do wholesaling via PPC. They're doing other marketing channels as well. We have Lawden in Kansas who does a lot of listings. He has a real estate license. I think he might have a brokerage. Kevin in North Carolina keeps a lot of his rentals. We have Carl down in NOLA. He does a lot of SEO. Chris in Alabama also does that. We have Matt who does a lot of flips in Myrtle Beach. Sean in Delco, right near where I used to live. He does a lot of flips and he has a really great follow-up system. And Vance in Georgia, he does over $1 million a year in his company. PPC is his, I think, number 2 or 3 best marketing channel. He has a really good sales process as well, and he kills it with direct mail. A lot of investors, as a note, who are doing 7 figures, not 7 figures just from PPC, but just 7 figures in general, are often using direct mail as their primary bread and butter. But no matter how good your sales is, you do need to have some patience. So why am I even bringing that up? This is the roadmap that we use, kind of the general rule of thumb for campaigns. When we're working with investors to make sure they're set up to succeed, we launch the campaign, we want to make sure we're in the right market, we're targeting motivated seller, maybe they want to do land or mobile homes, like we can tweak some things. We set up the right ads that we know that work, the website that we know that works, which I showed you an example of one, make sure they have a good sales process in place, and then make sure everything is tracked so we can track the lead quality, track all the data so we can make good decisions on how to improve the campaign over time. In the first 2 months, we want to really just get the data in. So we got the data infrastructure in place. What is coming up? Like, what is the cost per lead going to be? How is the website converting? You see the other marketing gurus and agencies out there posting the testimonials. I got a deal off my first lead in the first 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. That does happen. Like, we have investors who've also got a deal off their first lead, but it's the exception, not the rule. It's easy to post a testimonial about it, but really the first lead on average takes a couple weeks to come in, especially if you have a lower budget in a smaller market. So you're not going to necessarily crush it out of the gate in the first 2 months. And if you're expecting that, you may be disappointed. So those are not the right expectations. What you really want to focus on is we have the foundation set and you got some good processes in place. We'll be, I don't know exactly when yet, but launching a mastermind among our clients to be able to really share what the best practices are and learn from each other and things like that, which I'm very excited about. Okay, so after you kind of have that done over the first 2 months, we can really kind of dial in what the expectations are, what the plan is. And then for the next 2 to 6 months, the goal is really to get a profitable ROI, right? Because now you've spent money in the first 2 months, maybe you get a deal, maybe you haven't, but we really want to use this data to make strategic adjustments to either lead quality or maybe pivoting the market a little bit, or this is when we maybe pause some keywords or add some new ones. We'll do some different things to double down on what's working and determine away what's not working. And we basically just keep doing that over and over and over again. That's our job. The goal is to get to 3 or to 10x ROI, depending on their budget and this and that, to a point where the investor wants to scale, where they either, depending on the situation, they'll either need to add more markets in, we can test a new strategy of ads to run, or we just frankly increase the budget if they're in a large enough market. We increase the budget slowly over time until they become that happy investor with the whole team. And that's basically how it works. And they don't really have to do any work other than close the leads. But if you want to make $1 million just from Google Ads alone, you need to do a few different things. So you'll need to do acquisition and disposition across a very large market. So the smallest investor that we have doing 7 figures is in a market population of 8 million. It's the smallest market to be able to do $1 million that I've seen, at least. Maybe you can do it lower if you're doing these like crazy luxury flips, but this is what I've seen. They'll have a full team in place, a couple acquisition managers, someone just doing dispo. The investor is going to be the CEO managing all this. Maybe they're also doing sales or a sales director too. They'll often have an executive assistant, an operations manager, kind of an office person, and then tons of vendors like us and other people helping them, get more leads and things like that. Their website will be real dialed in and have a really good sales process. And as a cool tip for you, check out callingly.com. It's a cool system that automatically automatically, when someone fills out a form, it'll automatically call the number in the form and call one of your sales reps and connect them right away. It reduces the friction, or eliminates it really, of you having to see the lead, come in and manually call it. The system automatically does it for you. And it's been a game changer for some of our investors because it really reduces the time between when the form is filled out and when you can contact the lead, which is really important. Things that you can't do in Google Ads. You can't optimize for lead quality, and you can't optimize for ROI. It's not in the system. The dashboard is all keywords and bids and things like that. Most agencies therefore ignore it, but we don't. If you want to get to $1 million a year, here's what you need to do. So here's an example of doing the whole state of Florida. So we can actually take all the leads that come in his CRM. So we're hooked into the CRM, and we can then see the green checkbox are good leads, qualified leads. The red X's are unqualified, and then the money symbols here are deals. So certain areas which produce pockets of, like up in Jacksonville, bad leads, or down in Miami, we were spending a lot of money there and not really even breaking even with the deals they were doing. So we decided, let's take money out of Miami, throw it to the rest of the campaign. So there's a bunch of different pockets we're able to optimize for. As well, we went through every single county in the campaign. Because in Google Ads, you can pull spend by county. So we're able to pull spend by county and then pull his revenue by county, and we can see which counties were most profitable. And then we can able to make adjustments accordingly, where we can remove counties, trim out the fat to focus on the counties that are getting, 1,300% ROI and 800% ROI versus a county that spent 11 grand and got no deals. And this county spent 12 grand and got 100 grand in deals. So let's do more deals there, right? But you really need to understand this business, and you need to have the right data tracking infrastructure in place to be able to do any of this stuff. But when you get to higher volumes, this is what you need to do to really get to $1 million a year. So I'm just sharing some stats with you here. 2024, so grossed, this is just for one campaign, $1.1 million. They spent about $250,000, so it was a 4x gross return there. Got 1,500 leads, and their cost per lead was under $200. They're doing the entire state, and they did 50 deals at about 20 grand a deal. Again, because they're doing a lot of flips. They're doing a lot of wholesales. So if you're interested, you can contact us. Our email's in here as well. You can shoot us an email if you're interested in working with us. And
that's it. That is how you gross $1 million a year just doing PPC.